It's not a karaoke. It's
me,
not a
Brad.
karaoke. Shut up. It's vegan news. What's going on, everyone, and welcome to this week's vegan news. This week has, fortunately, a lot of good news, and unfortunately, although not a lot of bad news, quite some bad news at the same time. We're gonna start with the bad news as always.
Hey Seb,
I'm recording.
can I be in the video?
Yeah. Sure.
You just always make these videos every week and you don't invite people, so I thought it might be okay for
Yeah, but usually it's the other me that comes, not you.
Oh. Can I be the other you this week?
I mean, yeah.
Thanks.
You ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, vegan news.
Vegan news.
What's up, everybody?
No, chill. Let's start with the bad news.
Yeah, okay, alright.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Dude.
Okay.
Alright, bad news. You wanna go first? I'll go first.
Yeah.
Names of approved meat plants for exports to China revealed. So for those of you who don't know, because of the lack of farms or animals that they have in China, a lot of countries export animal products to China, and Ireland just jumped on board and they have 6 new meat plants that are going to be exporting to China. Last week we talked about the ones in the UK. They were exporting pig legs all the way to China, and they have, I think, 30% of UK's pig flesh production is sent to China.
Whoa.
So yeah, this week it's Ireland that got on board, which is really sad because yeah, vegan movement is growing in the West, but these companies, instead of like reducing their production or just changing their production line, they're just exporting it to other countries.
Weren't you saying this is happening too in Australia?
Yeah, definitely. Australia has like huge numbers. We will talk about that actually maybe in the next story.
Great. All right. Bad news piece number 2 is that Australia has just released their a report on what they're basically doing in the meat industry there. And they have actually started upping their numbers in export. So now 65% of beef, 73% of sheep meat, and 90% of goat meat production in 2018 was actually from export. So now Australia is basically the largest red meat exporter by value.
$13.5 billion. So yeah, this just means that when we stop contributing to the animal slaughter, it doesn't mean we are stopping animal slaughter. We have to constantly raise awareness about it to people from all backgrounds, from all countries.
Every part of the world.
Every part of the world. All right, so...
Time for the good news, right?
Look at the title, James. How is that good news?
There's more bad news? I thought we'd have good news.
Yeah, me too. But unfortunately, horrible news came out yesterday. Turns out in China, they're putting pigs in car seats and just literally slamming them into walls to like test the impact of accidents.
Why don't they use dummies?
Yeah, why don't they do what everyone already does, them included? I don't know why they decided to replace a perfectly alternative solution they have with the amazing results that like is quite realistic. They completely put that aside. All the technology they have, they put it aside, and they started putting baby pigs to test them in crash as test dummies. I mean,
That could be the sickest thing of all time.
seriously, like,
It's horrible.
it's crazy because
Wow.
I mean, if you think about it, it's not someone who came up with the idea. It's also people who were like, "That's a good idea. Let's
Yeah,
do it." Like,
right.
For those of you who are not vegan and care more about other animals, they also do this with dogs. So while you get angry that they're doing this with dogs, keep in mind that there's no difference, morally speaking, between the dogs and the pigs. So yeah, since that was probably the worst news,
Is there good news?
yeah,
Hey!
a bunch of good news. You can continue.
Sick! First piece of good news is that the oldest dairy farm in California is actually now growing almonds. So they are the second farm in the US to actually transition over to making plant milks. The first was Elmhurst, and they've been around since I think like 1911 or something like that. And I believe that they've been around for 125 years, this new one in California. Now, of course, there's gonna be a bunch of industry pushback because almonds use water, but however, it's ridiculous. And I actually heard that they're letting the almond babies stay with their moms on these farms. Which is pretty great. But seriously, for anyone that's watching this that doesn't know about the dairy industry, it's a horribly cruel industry. It takes babies away from their mothers, sends the children to be killed, and then the moms puts them in this entire long, never-ending chain of just being exploited and abused and milked, and then it just goes on until they're sent to slaughter. So we can end all of that, just like this company has decided to do. And the reason they did it is not for ethics, but because they actually found it's going to be more profitable to make plant milk.
I do have to say though, I do wish they didn't choose almond milk.
Me too. Yeah.
Especially in California, don't they have like a horrible water system there? Like they don't
terrible water system, but they actually have lots of almonds. So it's like
so weird. I mean, I'm happy it's no longer dairy, but it's just like maybe they should have just switched to oats.
Oats. I don't know why oat milk isn't the only thing we're drinking.
I know.
Super sustainable. That and soy milk. Soy milk's good too.
Yeah, but oat is better.
Oat's better.
All right, the next good news. Foie gras banned in New York. Finally. Now, I don't mean finally as if foie gras is like for some reason morally worse than other like animal products. I just mean finally we are realizing that when we ban these products, like when we fight against these products, we can actually put a law as well. And apparently those who don't respect the new ban, they will get up to $2,000 in fine, which is really great because then the law is showing that if you break the rule, you will pay for it as well. Yeah. So I think that's great. You know, I definitely don't think foie gras is for any reason like more
morally unjust.
Yeah,
right? Of course.
Exactly. They're all the same. But if this is how we are gonna take our first steps into banning things and using the law and changing the public mind, so be it.
And I think that's one thing that's interesting about foie gras is that like it's pretty much generally accepted that foie gras is a disgusting product.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's one of those things like dog fighting where so many people in society are against it. And so hopefully this is the first step to leading people to also include, you know, pig farming and cow farming, the exact same things that are horrible things that are going on, but just including it with the other species.
I mean, it's just really disgusting. Like, how did they even come up with that? They literally like shove tubes inside their throats and pump it with food until like...
So what I've heard too is that they will take like almost like a plunger to push food down their throats. Like further in, and like it's absolutely horrific. Is there more good news?
Yeah, there's a couple more. Okay. Yeah. So the European governments urged to end unfair higher tax on plant-based milks. I didn't even know that's a thing.
I didn't know there was a thing either.
So it's really interesting. ProVeg is working on this, which is an organization, a vegan organization, and they are basically talking about how in I think 6 countries, which are Germany, Italy, Spain, Greece, Slovakia, and Austria. Plant-based milks pay more VAT tax than like cow-based milk.
Is there any reason? Was there any like...
I mean, look at this graph. How much global land cow milk uses and then how much CO2 they emit.
Crazy.
And then compare that to plant-based milks. So basically people are paying more money for being more sustainable and less cruel to animals.
And better for their health.
Yeah, and better
too. You're being healthy and you're getting paid for it.
It's good news that this information is being shared and that governments are being urged to end this ridiculous higher tax. If anything, I mean, if they're not gonna stop farming animals, at least those are the only products that should be taxed like this.
Another piece of good news.
I love this one.
This is a really good one. So Joaquin Phoenix is actually now officially the executive producer for a new documentary that's coming out called The Animal People, and it actually covers the period when Shaq, and this is back in the 90s, and basically what happened, they got together and they decided that they were gonna, save animals from this, this thing and try and get the public on their side to kind of fight against the opening of this new lab. And the government called them terrorists. And they were teenagers. Yeah. They were teenagers trying to stop, do you know what species of animal?
They were really young. I don't even know how old they were. I don't know what animals that they were gonna use there. But they were really young, and it's just ridiculous.
Crazy.
And the way it happened was they were so successful in their protests, they changed so many minds that the government found no other way of taking them down than calling them terrorists.
Crazy. Well, there's one of the stories in there I believe is Jake Conroy.
Yeah.
And he spent I think almost a decade in jail.
No,
it was not that long.
I think it was 4 years.
4 years.
I'm not sure, but you can check out Jake Conroy. Shout out to Jake Conroy.
Absolutely.
The cranky vegan on YouTube, who actually happens to be the person who kind of inspired me to start these vegan news.
The vegan news.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Jake.
So thank you for that, Jake.
But I think that's really interesting is that there's so few documentaries about animal rights activism. If you look at Behind the Mask, I think that was in the early 2000s or even the 90s.
Yeah.
It's just an old it's an amazing documentary now, but it's just older. Yeah. And so there's been almost 2 decades of like kind of missed information where we just haven't heard about these things that are happening. So this is really
it's
exciting.
good that more and more documentaries are coming out.
Of course.
And movies as well. So the next one, Bill Gates praises plant-based meat on major TV show. I personally didn't watch this, but apparently he talked about how cows alone count for like 6% of global emissions of like greenhouse gas emissions, and it's just honestly I'm not a big fan of Bill Gates.
Yeah.
But
I was about to shout out to BG. Thanks for the praise, BG.
I'm happy that he mentioned this because he's someone who obviously a lot of people look up to, and he's not vegan. So when people hear it from him, they're not gonna think like, oh, the vegan person.
Yeah, of course. He highlights an entire different demographic of people.
Yeah, that's true.
Like my dad, like grew up when this guy was becoming, you know, just a legend of a human being creating Microsoft. And like my dad won't listen to what I'm telling him, but he'll definitely listen to BG, you know what I'm saying?
All right, the last and kind of weird news. Dutch meat giant
Vion, I believe.
Vion.
Yeah.
Just made its beef facility vegan. How interesting is that? So basically this company has a facility that was producing meat products, and now they've completely changed that facility into creating vegan products. Good news, yes. Also weird news.
Weird news.
Like a whole non-vegan facility just turned vegan. Now, don't get me wrong, the company isn't like going fully vegan, but they are like a meat giant. Like they are a huge company in the Netherlands. So for them to do this, as I've said in every single other video, when big companies or like celebrities or whatever you want to call them do these things, it just normalizes veganism more. And normalization of veganism helps a lot in people realizing, yeah, they should definitely be vegan. Like it's 2019.
Yeah, of course. And a really cool graphic on the package too. Do you see that?
Oh,
it took me a second to realize what it was.
Okay, I get it.
I thought that was a little phallic, but it turns out it's the
like,
face of a cow. Oh! I know! You didn't know it! You didn't know it!
That's cool.
It's cool. I was gonna say one more thing. So
it's cool.
It's in
I
Germany.
Can't believe you left that. So before we end this, I just wanted to let you know that Jamest Hoot, for those of you who don't know, is the producer of Planet Vegan, an amazing vegan documentary series that is going to be released next year.
Sometime in 2020. But we would like to maybe in the spring or summer do like a screening tour at least through Europe, and then maybe at some point, depending on if we can, just send out the premiere to like a bunch of theaters around the world and do something like that.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So we'll put the links for the documentary and the Instagram and everything in the description below.
Sweet!
Thank you all so much for watching this episode. Thank you for joining without invitation, but okay.
I asked nicely.
Next episode, I'll make sure the other Seb shows up, and if people like this, you know, they'll let me know, and maybe you can be here again.
Seriously?
Maybe.
If you could send him a message that says you enjoyed me being here, that would be sweet.
Yeah, just be honest about it. Alright, thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment in the comment section below if you want to share anything. If you want to support my work, check out my Patreon or my website Ethics Over Habits to get vegan merchandise, ethically made and organic. So thanks again for everyone. Thanks for the support. I'll see you next week.
Peace out.